Please welcome VP of Product Management, Android developer, Matthew McCullough.
2022 Android Developer Summit. It's exciting to be here in person with so many of you and able to wave hello to everybody on the live stream. Today, we're going to talk about 3 themes that we're seeing across the Android ecosystem. 1, modern Android development. 2, building for a multi-device world. And 3, the latest improvements to the Android platform and getting it into users' hands. But first, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Matthew McCullough, and I lead Android's developer organization. We build the APIs and tools that you use in turn to build your apps. I'm new at Google and what they call a noogler, but I've been building developer tools for about 20 years. And I care so deeply about making developers like you more productive. I love how that productivity gives you more time to be creative and helps you build delightful experiences for your users. One of the reasons that I'm so excited to work on Android is the unique Android developer community. It's a network of resources and skills and sharing that contributes to helping one another build great apps and serve the greater Android community. For an example of what your Android community makes possible, look no further than Asan Aman, a student from Pakistan. After his mom received a counterfeit banknote, a big problem in rural Pakistan, he set out to build a fake note detector. With the help of his local Google Developer Student Club and supportive online Android developer community, he was able to create an ML-powered Android app that fulfilled that vision and is now working to scale the idea. Another example is the Android Developer Hangouts and weekly Twitter Spaces hosted by Google developer expert Madonna Wambua and Matt McKenna. It's great. Yes, round of applause. It is really great to see them creating a space that brings the Android developer community together to share knowledge and help each other in an environment where everyone feels valued. And lastly, Android Developer Summit. This event is literally an expression of this community, bringing it together and sharing stories, giving shared learning, and bringing an opportunity to give feedback to product owners. Talking directly with you and hearing your perspectives helps us make Android better for everyone. So let me share a bit more about the 3 themes that we're seeing across the ecosystem and want to explore with you today. First, the platform. We're evolving the Android platform to meet users' demands for privacy, security, and personalization. We see apps in the Android platform as symbiotic and are working to enable you to build amazing apps on top of it. And we know that you want to use these features sooner, so we're working to make them available on ever earlier Android releases. Second, modern Android development. Users' demands of apps have grown, and in fact, they expect rich, dynamic, delightful applications. We want to help you build those by easily shouldering the complexity and providing powerful building blocks and sharp tools. Third, form factors. We're seeing people owning and using multiple Android devices and are expecting apps to work across them seamlessly. They want their devices to be better together and uniquely leveraging each form factor for exactly what it does best. We're seeing especially strong growth in wearables and large screen devices, and we want you to be enabled to build for those opportunities. So without further ado, let's dive into the technical content. Please welcome Ramon and Florina to take us through the latest updates in modern Android development.
A few years ago, we introduced a set of libraries, tools, and guidance that we call Modern Android Development, or MAD. And our goal is to make it faster and easier for you to build high-quality apps across all Android devices. And that's why we brought you Android Studio and Kotlin, and a bunch of Jetpack libraries, powerful Google and Play services, documentation, code labs, and a lot more. And we're always investing in every single part of the app development experience to simplify it and keep you productive so that you can focus on what matters the most to you, your apps, your business, and your users.
We want the skills you learn to be applied across the entire ecosystem of Android devices. For example, we believe that Jetpack Compose is the best way to build rich, beautiful UIs. Compose already lets you ship delightful experiences on phones and tablets. And earlier this year, we released Compose 1.0 for Wear OS, making Compose the recommended way to build wearable UIs. Compose is now taking the next step, and I'm glad to announce the first alpha release of Compose for Android TV. Components like Feature Carousel and Immersive List are already available, and more are coming soon.
And we've heard from you that Compose is changing the way you're building apps. It's reducing the number of bugs and increasing your development speed. So now, over 160 of the top 1,000 apps on the Play Store are already shipping Compose. That's a 50% increase since Google I/O earlier this year. And it's been great seeing apps like Cash App saying they're going to use Compose for all their new features. But what's been even more amazing is seeing the reaction across the community and witnessing the incredible creativity of everything that you've been building.
But we know we're not done. So far, we released all Compose libraries together since 1.0 a year ago. But we wanted more flexibility so different Compose libraries can move at their own pace. So we started versioning each Compose library independently. To make it easier for you to manage your dependencies, we're now introducing a Gradle bill of materials, BOM for short, that specifies the latest stable version of each Compose library. We'll, of course, update it for every stable Compose artifact we publish. Our first BOM release, Compose October 22, brings many new features like lazy stagger grids, custom lazy layouts, volt refresh, variable fonts, and performance improvements. For example, in this release, we started a major refactor to the modifier system to improve performance. We've been able to introduce this without touching public API due to the solid layering and abstractions that Compose is built upon. We're focused on making Compose performant out of the box so that your apps are buttery smooth.
And that's not all. A year ago, we introduced Material U with Android 12, Google's most expressive and flexible design system. And now, Material 3 components for Compose are stable, and you can start using them to build fresh, beautiful apps that put your brand front and center. With Compose, you can write dynamic, efficient apps across a wide range of form factors. So we believe that you should use Compose if you are new to Android or starting a new app. And to help you and your teams on this journey, we recently updated our Android Basics training course and launched a series of Compose Camp events to help you learn Compose.
Okay, enough talking. Let's start showing. So, I'm using here the latest release of Android Studio Flamingo, and I'm just creating a new project using the defaults. Okay, so usually the first thing I do when I open a project is check out my dependencies. So I'm going to go to my build.gradle file. And then here we can see that Compose is the default whenever you're creating a new Android project. So we talked earlier about the BOM. Let's see it in action. So here I'm importing the BOM. So this means that now I can just do this. And that's it. I can remove the versions. Okay, we just have a grading here. Let's build some UI. So I'm going to add some code, and then I'm going to replace my greeting with my screen. And then let's see what we have here. So in my screen, I have a scaffold, and then inside I have a large top app bar, and then in my screen content, all I have is a text and a list of items.
Of course, the preview is great, but we also want to check what the UI looks like on a real device. So Florina just moved to the running devices pane, and now she's plugging in her Pixel phone. And with the new device mirroring feature, we can see and interact with the phone display directly from within the IDE.
So now I'm running the app, and I can directly just scroll my list from Android Studio. So this looks okay, but I think this would look much better if the top app bar would collapse. Well, with the new Material 3 APIs, I can do just that. So I'm adding a scroll behavior, and then in my scaffold, I'm connecting the scroll behavior, and then in the top app bar, I'm assigning the scroll behavior to the top app bar. Okay, this is much better. So now I can see how the top app bar collapses, and I can see more of my screen. Okay, next, I want to show you one of actually my favorite features that are available in Compose 1.3. So I have this text here, and wouldn't it be cool to show this as a gradient? So to do that, I'm first going to add my gradient, and then all I have to do is, in the text style, add a brush, and then in the brush, use my linear gradient. And then, yeah, I can see the gradient.
And you can see that we also have a scroll to top button, and the visibility of that button depends on the index of the first visible item in the list. So when you do a state read like this in Compose, you can create unnecessary composition, which can be bad for performance. But thankfully, we have tools to help you there.
Yes. So in the layout inspector, now we're able
With Android Studio tools, backwards compatible app compat libraries, and the use of SDK extensions within the platform, we're making it easier than ever to adapt your app to platform changes, while enabling you to take advantage of the latest features Android has to offer. With that, I'd like to invite Matthew back to the stage.
Hello again. Thank you to my colleagues Florina, Ramon, Sarah, Vicky, Diana, Daniel, Charmaine, and Dan. Thank you very much. From modern Android development to wearables, foldables, and large screens, and from Compose to platform updates, even after 14 years, we still have so much progress to share every time we come together for ADS. It makes me feel honored to have been welcomed into a team that works so hard every week to support our developer community. And that's you, ADS audience. We're here to listen and to serve. And we have even more learning opportunities in store. Next up, we have talks themed around modern Android development. And in the following weeks, we'll have a live stream track from Form Factors on November 9th and one for Platform on November 14th. And then we have visits also to Bangalore and Tokyo in the month of December. So join us now and drop your mad questions into the YouTube comments or on Twitter using hashtag AskAndroid. And tune in later today to see if we answer your questions live. From the experiences you build for users to the feedback that you give us to help make our tools better, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today and look forward to chatting more during the rest of Android Dev Summit 22. Thank you so much for joining us.
Please welcome Android Developer Relations Engineer, Simona Stanovic.
Hi everyone, my name is Simona Stanovic. I'm an Android Developer Relations Engineer working on Compose. Unfortunately, it's going to be just me on stage today because Rebecca couldn't make it. So, today we're going to combine two Compose UI forces, custom layouts and graphics, to build a seemingly complex design in Jetpack Compose in just 20 minutes. So our approach today will be more of a hands-on, where we'll get to build a mind-blowing, super fun, and extremely original and creative design of a graph. But we're going to make it pretty and fun, I promise. This is going to be a sleep tracking app called JetLagged. So let's begin with the first part, custom layouts. This time graph will be the custom layout that we want to build. So how do we build this? Let's break it down. The x-axis of our graph shows the hours of the day. The y-axis shows the days. And lastly, the bars represent the sleep hours for each day. Now, there is a bit more. If you tap on a sleep bar, it expands to show a bit more info. So when you break down a design like this, you might think that there's a lot of ways of achieving it. And you might be wondering, why go with the custom layout? Can't I use existing composables instead? And to answer this, let's see how these three graph components work with each other. So day labels need to be positioned at the start of the screen, but beneath the hours header. The hours header needs to be at the top of the screen, but after the day label. Each sleep bar is differently positioned, taking into account the start offset and the sleep duration, and it needs to be placed in line with the day label when it's collapsed, as well when it's expanded. So TLDR is, we need a lot of coordination here, and every component needs to know the exact info on all of the other elements for its own sizing and placement. So this is a perfect use case for a custom layout, because in Compose, custom layouts give you the full control over manually placing and sizing its layout children. This means that our graph, or our custom layout, will actually have three responsibilities. Calculating how many day labels and sleep bars are needed. Now, the hours header at the top is only going to be one composable, so nothing to calculate here. Measuring all three components, and placing all three components. Now, let's first define the graph's input. As mentioned, our three components are the hours header, the day label, and the sleep bar. Now, for simplicity, let's imagine that these come as the following composables. A single row composable containing all of the hours, a single text composable for one day label, and a single box composable for the one sleep bar that we have. Now, we can actually use this information to define the parameters of our graph. However, to know how many day labels and sleep bars we have, we also need one more parameter, which is the total count of the sleep bars or days, or simply graph rows. Now, when we multiply the day label and the sleep bar composables with this total count, we get two lists of composables instead. As mentioned, the hours header is just at the top. It comes in as one composable, so again, nothing to calculate here. Now for the second step, measuring all components. Every custom layout starts by calling the layout composable. And this composable is actually the key core component of the Compose layout system. It accepts composable content for laying out the children, and as well the policy for measuring and sizing these same children. So all higher level layouts like rows and columns are built on top of this composable. Now, for a graph, we'll actually use a new and handy overload of this layout composable, which accepts a list of content. Now, the layout composable is actually the main protagonist of the layout phase in Compose. And this phase consists of two steps, measurement and placement in that specific order. Sizes of child elements are
such as using dynamic dependency versions or snapshots. This is available for you to try in Android Studio Electric Eel Beta. For number 3, I want to show you an early glimpse at the Android SDK version upgrade assistant that you might have seen at the keynote already. It's a tool that helps you target the latest and greatest Android OS versions, ensuring that your users always get the best quality and security and privacy in their apps when they update. Thanks to the built-in rules, we can detect when you need to update your target SDK version in your build and guide you through the required changes in the IDE so you don't have to constantly context switch between the browser, the documentation, and your code. In the future, the assistant will detect code patterns in your project that need updating to match the platform's behaviors and new APIs. But this feature is still under heavy development, so please watch our social channels and new releases to learn when it's ready for you to try. And number 4, we have a new feature in the device manager. So that's the tool that you use for configuring both the virtual and physical devices that you use for running your apps. We've made tons of improvements in this area. So you can pair your device over Wi-Fi, you can quickly pair Wear OS devices, and much more. But now we're adding physical device screen mirroring. For any connected device, you can now stream the UI to your IDE window and interact with it just like you would with the emulator, using simulated touch events. You can also drag and drop APKs onto the device to install them, and even use your keyboard for text input. So all this leads to higher productivity and, again, fewer context switching between devices. You can try that now as an experimental feature in Electric Eel. And lastly, a treat for everyone developing apps that rely on Bluetooth connections. We're expanding our emulator's Bluetooth support. You can now create arbitrary connections between multiple running emulator instances, including for discovery, pairing, and exchanging of data. So here you can see 2 emulators seamlessly exchange pass Bluetooth messages and files with nearby sharing, just like real devices. This addition of a functional Bluetooth stack is useful for local development currently, but we're working on enabling even more use cases, such as being able to programmatically define Bluetooth devices for your tests. Let us know what kind of support you'd like to see here. That's it for this talk. I would like to ask everyone to try out other features in our beta and canary releases to help us build the features that you'll like. So thanks for coming, and see you on the conference floor if you have any questions.
So hopefully you've been enjoying the talks so far, even if the demo gods weren't smiling on us today.
Hello, I'm Don, and I'm an engineer on the Android Developer Relations team. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a scalable, modularized, testable app from scratch. Now, this won't be a Hello World app. I'll concentrate on building an app architecture which will enable your app to grow. We'll use modules to separate responsibilities and create a test infrastructure to verify that your app behaves as expected. Lastly, we'll look at how to build a flexible, intuitive, and great-looking user interface. I'll be covering a lot of different concepts, so if I cover something you're not familiar with, there's a link on virtually every slide which will take you to more information about the current topic. Throughout this talk, I'll use the Now in Android app as an example. The source code is available on GitHub. In the app, we have a screen which shows content which is customized for you. It displays a list of news articles and allows the user to bookmark each article. We're going to take a look at how the For You feature was built, starting with how bookmarks work. The architecture for a feature like this can be broadly divided into 2 layers, UI and data. The data layer obtains and exposes app data to the UI layer, as well as performing business logic. The UI layer displays app data on screen and reacts to any changes in that data. An important word here is reacts. By setting up a stream of data between the layers, we are